Welcome to Vlog 3 on the coaching process. Before I begin to critically analyse my coaching, I think it appropriate to provide some context. The athlete I will be analysing is 6 weeks post-op a scaphoid lunate reconstruction. It is my aim to pull out positives and negatives of my coaching behaviour. As these clips play, I will use a voiceover, and sometimes the clips may play so that you see how I coach and the cues that I use, and then I will summarise them at the end. As a brief intro into my coaching philosophy, these are some of my fundamental aims when reconditioning an athlete. I want them to move well, I want them to lift well, I want them to train well, and that should allow them to play well. The athlete will be completing a lower body push-pull session. The clip will begin with the athlete performing the single leg RDLs. However, it will be in fast forward as I do no verbal cueing or coaching on the first set. This is often my policy when watching an athlete. It is important for me to know how they move and how they self-organize when performing a new task. Within this first set of RDLs, I allow the athlete to move and show me how they perceive an RDL to be. I think I have taken a great position to view the RDL, however, I am not impressed with my own body language, with crossed arms, an intense gaze, and at one point my lip even curls, showing my indifference to the technique. I think I could give some feedback to encourage the athlete so that they do not feel judged.
Those are good, pal. There's probably just a few things that I'm going to tweak on your next round, okay? So we're into that hip flexor exercise. I'll show you that.
I liked the way I communicated and the feedback I gave after the last set of RDLs there. I always like to try and wrap a negative with lots of positivity. In summary, I am quite positive in my coaching process on allowing the athlete to play, to learn, to show how he self-organizes. I'm happy with my communication and the feedback I gave. I'm not happy with my body language. I feel like I was very quiet and very judgmental of form, and if I was the athlete, I would feel uncomfortable. Also, in my last feedback at the end of the set, I mentioned a few tweaks to technique. Is it a few tweaks? What's wrong with how they're moving now? This really comes into my philosophy and my coaching process, and whether I think good movement matters or whether you can move anyway in the RDL and still get the adaptations you're after.
You're going to go half kneeling here, pal. Put your hands, obviously just the one for you, pal. So your hands there, you're going to engage it, keep your sternum back, and then lift your opposite leg. This knee, push it straight down and head up as tall as you can. You're lifting the opposite hip. And then switching after 10-second hold, and the same thing. Got it?
Yep.
Side. Just have a look. Good, nice and tall, Rob, nice and tall, as if I'm pulling you straight up. That's nice, Bob.
To summarise, I believe I performed the exercise well, however I may have overloaded the athlete with too much information, describing many different cues for the movement. At the same time, this could be argued that such a low load exercise with no weights involved, perceptual demand was low and therefore the athlete could handle this information. I think this to be true in this case, and hence why I cued as I went along. The information that shows me that this may be true is that the player and athlete affirmed as he went along that he understood what was happening and he executed the drill quite well with very little feedback needed.
Good length, perfect. Good. Just don't come up as far, Rob. Like just squeeze the hips. Boom, one. Yeah, that's good. We'll count that as two, even though the first one wasn't great.
After this critical and quite negative feedback during the exercise, I remain silent for the rest of the reps, as I am happy with both the position and the execution of the drill being emphasized on the hamstring and glute rather than the back. However, I was not happy with my choice of words or my language to the athlete. To summarize, I was happy with the correction I made to the exercise as it emphasized the hip and the glute and the hamstring emphasis rather than the back and extension emphasis. My communication, my feedback, along with my language were all negatives. I did not like the fact that I was so critical of the athlete during the exercise that he was doing. Again, later on, I will do a more deep reflection on why I use such communication with this athlete and the language in particular.
Rob, if you just show me, just do the RDLs the way you're doing them, and then I'll tweak them after we look at it. Maybe just do 2 reps, Rob, okay? Beautiful, and take a break there. That's nice. It's just a little tweak, like you're actually nailing what I want out of it, which is you've got the weight, you're loaded up, and as you go down, you're getting the hip to sit the hip back. That's what we want, hip backing up, so that we load that hamstring and the weight goes onto your heel a little bit. But what's changing is you'll get to the load of the hamstring, and then there's this extra reach, like the goal is to touch the floor. Yeah. The goal is not to touch the floor, and when you do that, you disconnect really, and we lose that like good core sort of strong position, and you get like that torsion in your spine. Yeah. And on one leg it bent over to the side and loaded. I don't want that safety wise, okay? So when you have it, you get that on the shelf of your shoulder locked in pretty strong, and then that stays that way no matter what. Okay? And I want a little bit more speed coming through, so a bit more like up, like straight up and down. Ass back, load, up. Okay? Yeah. That makes sense? Yeah. So let's see what that looks like.
Full 8 reps or something?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll cue as you go along if you need anything, pal, but I'm sure you'll be used to it. Full 8 reps. Good, stay tight at the shoulder, very nice. And that's it, pull through the hip as you come through. Very nice. Load, pull through. Those are loads, that's what I'm after, pal. That's it, keep connected to that shoulder, shelf it up, keep rock solid there. Good, yeah. And now you've got those tackers, get that back leg straight for reaching out, very nice. Good. Strong through the hip, keep a good core. Very nice.
To summarize my coaching process for the second set of RDLs, firstly, I think it's a positive that I allow the athlete a few reps to really concentrate on how the movement feels before I come in and make tweaks or change or give feedbacks or corrections. I feel my communication to the athlete was very good in the sense that as I was communicating, I was highlighting the positives and suggesting that he had most of the exercise down and that I only wanted to change these small things. Also, I described each aspect of the movement so the athlete felt that they were doing all these things, but even if they weren't consciously thinking of these things, that it brought this to how this movement should be done in more of a teaching manner. Even though these were things the athlete was doing, they get a better understanding of the movement. However, one negative, and a negative that keeps appearing, is this chase of perfect movement, always trying to get it better. And sometimes I think this can be my biggest flaw. Rather than enjoying the process of coaching, I'm always trying to tweak and change so that it looks exactly how I want it to look or how it should look. However, a positive to finish on is that the movement was executed better, in my opinion, than the first set of RDLs that they performed without coaching cues. To summarize the negative behavior of body language, lots of cues, negative communication and continuous cues, why is this happening? I think there's an underlying theme. I believe a common theme is the reason for all of these negative behaviors, and I think that common theme is perfectionism, specifically about movement, and I believe this stems from my feelings as a physio on moving well and not quite understanding how to bring that into my role as an S&C when reconditioning an athlete in the gym. I've created an action plan to change my philosophy, and I think wrapping a negative in a positive isn't enough. I think I'm going to have to celebrate any change in kinematics for the better rather than always seeking to change for that perfect rep.